Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about, of course, the government has said that there will not be an increase in petrol at this time, and of course that decision is subject to renewal, but we'll be talking about the political ramifications of such an increase if it does happen, and overall as far as the economy is concerned at this time, whether it's going to be geared towards the politics of the country at this time, or whether it is going to be dictated by, of course, our economic considerations at this time. All of those things today. We'll also be talking about the narrative that the PTI has been building. We've been seeing a lot of Jalsas, rallies even today. Maryam Nawaz is expected very soon to address people's a huge gathering in Gujarat. And the back and forth exchange between major political parties and the ramifications of that itself on economy. How that itself is going to pan out, the call for early elections, the various reactions, the various rumors we are seeing that are constantly coming out from different quarters. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Sadiqul Farooq from the PMLN. Thank you so much for being with us today. Dr. Niaz Murtaza, who is a political economist, thank you for joining us today. Abdullah Mumtaz Kaloon, who is with the PTI, thank you so much for making the time. Ji, Sadiqul Farooq Sahab, I'll start off with you. Like I said, we, of course, there has been in the press conference today, Miftah Ismail categorically said that there won't be an increase in petrol at this time. In terms of the kind of economy, the situation it is, and he talked about how the government has landed into a myriad of problems as far as economy is concerned. And therefore they're going to have to deal with whatever they have, and he's going to go back and talk to the IMF about maybe relaxing some of the conditions. How do you expect the next couple of weeks to go forth in terms of the political pressures that the government itself is facing, and of course the elections and the call for early elections, which is also Maryam Aurangzeb said that it's going to be a joint decision of the allies. How do you look at things overall?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, MAHRUKH. Of course, we are facing problems in the field of economy,
right,
governance,
right,
foreign policy, and these problems have been inherited
right,
from IK.
right.
But now we have to cater the interest of public. We have also to combat different problems, including especially terrorism. So as far as the problem of governance and terrorism are concerned, I think we have to great extent tackled, and we are tackling it, inshallah.
But Sadiqul Farooq Sahab, let me just interject here. There's a lot of criticism that's coming from the PTI about the fact that there seems to be a lack of a plan here. How would you answer that in terms of getting into the government at this time? And is there a plan in place in terms of how to deal with the economy? How are things overall going to be dealt with? Is there a roadmap that the PMLN is going to lead in terms of also the coalition partners?
It is a coalition government, and we have to take decisions after discussion with our coalition partners. But we have a plan.
Okay.
But there are lot of difficulties. If a house or a building is dynamited, then we have already a plan, but that we have built that building. But it is very difficult to provide funds and to purchase material and then labor, etc. It is 4th week that this government has taken over.
Right.
So I think we have discussed it at all levels, and now we are going to resolve all problems. We feel that if the prices of petroleum are increased, which is of course a global phenomenon,
right,
but the people of Pakistan, which are already under a tremendous economic pressure. So with this one step, the prices of all commodities in all sectors will increase, and the people, poor and lower middle class and middle class, will come under more pressure.
Right.
So the funds given by the people of Pakistan in the form of taxes, we may reduce the provision on other sectors and other economic sector, I mean development, others, and we will provide assistance in the petroleum sector to a great extent for coming 2-3 months.
Right. Let
and
me come
then
back
we will
to
see.
you. Siddiqul Farooq, I want to talk about the fact how the subsidy earlier was criticized by the PMLN from, the subsidy on petrol that the last government gave, some of the measures they took, and are we moving towards a different kind of a plan now? Are we going to be a lot of the development that the last government envisaged in their plan, if there was a plan, and how does the PMLN intend to deal with those measures?
The Finance Minister Shaukat Tareen 2 weeks back has categorically said in an interview that Imran Khan had no economic plan.
Okay.
Similarly, before taking over as Finance Minister on the 1st of April, he said, and that interview was in Urdu, that our government, हमारी गवर्नमेंट ने तो इकोनॉमी मईशत को तबाह बर्बाद कर दिया.
Right. Okay.
So that was their policy.
Their policy. Let me come back to you. I'll go to Abdullah Mumtaz Kaloon for comments on that. But before that, Niyaz Saab, as far as, in your independent opinion, as far as things stand today, we saw what happened, in terms of the last government, the criticism that even Siddiqul Farooq Saab is talking about. He's saying that there was, of course, a lack of a plan in terms of the economy. We saw a lot of, switching of portfolios. We saw a lot of ministries being changed, different people put in charge of the economy. In terms of what the situation is today, as far as this government is concerned, with the rise in the dollar prices, with also the devaluation of rupee, inflation, all of these things are still confronting us, but it's too early in the day for this government, wouldn't you say?
Well, I mean, you can say that it takes a little while for, governments to settle down, especially, a coalition government like this. But then there is also the issue that, we are facing such a stark, severe economic crisis that, the cost of this indecision is very, very high. And in many ways, the economic crisis that we face today is much more severe than what we had in 2018 when PTI took over. So, there was more, leeway, more space for some delays then. And then there was also the fact that, the PTI government was, at the federal level for the first time. Now, if you look at, things like the current account deficit, the fiscal deficit, the inflation rate, the interest rate, the level of foreign reserves, the situation is much more precarious than what PMLN had left behind at that time. So you need quicker decision making. And I think it's not just an issue of, indecision on the economic side. I think the indecision on the economic side is partly at least driven by the indecision on the political side, which is, I think there is still a lack of clarity about what the government wants to do in terms of holding elections.
Is it lack of clarity, or also the fact that, there are allies involved? And, today, Mary Morgan said that, of course, they have to take on board the allies, the partners within the government also. And that is, other major political parties who have to be on board with these kind of decisions.
No, of course, that's what I mentioned. It's a coalition government, a much more precarious coalition than the PTI's. PTI had about 150 seats of its own. The Nawaz League has about 85 or 90 of its own. So obviously it's a much more precarious coalition. But again, I think, the divisions even within the coalition are not just on the economic issue, but also on the political issue of, when to hold elections. If they decide that, they will hold elections only at the end of the term of this parliament, then obviously they have more time to take, difficult decisions, tough decisions now, in the hope that by the time they have to hold elections next year, the situation will have stabilized. But if they have to hold elections quicker, immediately, or even in the next 4 to 6 months, then obviously they'll be very difficult for them to take tough economic decisions which increase inflation. So I think the first thing they need to settle down is, the political questions. And very quickly there was some announcement in London that, the Prime Minister will come back quickly, get allies on board, and then, make some important announcements. So we are still waiting for those announcements, and, each day in terms of delays is going to be very costly, both politically and economically.
Right, let me come back to you. Ji, Abdullah, overall, as far as the call for early elections is concerned, of course, we have seen, as far as Imran Khan is concerned, that is the narrative that is being put forward. Go for early elections. But at this time, as far as the economy is concerned, things are, it's been said across the board that as far as, it seems to be the economy is on a ventilator and things are really bad. And fast sliding further down. Is it right to expect or demand for early elections when now the changes has been made? And isn't it better to give this government, whether it is all the allies put together or the PMLN at this time, to let them get the situation to become stable, because whichever government then comes in is going to be dealing with more of the mess. Abdullah, can you hear me? Abdullah? Can you unmute, please? Ji.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, now I can. There's a problem. You're muted. Gee, there's a problem with audio. I can't hear. Gee, Sadiqul Farooq Sahab, let me, I think there's a problem with audio. I'll go back to Abdullah. Overall, as far as the situation at this time is concerned, do you think it's better, don't you feel it's better for Imran Khan to wait and, let the situation stabilize and then have the elections, because whoever comes in next is going to be dealing with the same economy, same kind of situation as far as, the issues are concerned?
Imran Khan, it is advisable for Imran Khan
Right.
to at least follow us as we as opposition played our role.
Okay.
We supported him when a dharna was staged by Tehreek-e-Labbaik. We supported him when there was aggression by India. We supported him when there was COVID-19. We also offered him for economic charter. So he should have played the same role because he has left the country in quagmire. So now, but he is a different kind of person.
Okay.
So and during these more than 3.5 years, he has also committed, and his party leaders, corruption. So there is a lot of corruption. International reports have confirmed that corruption in Pakistan during the PTI regime has increased.
Do you think that it's going to be, in terms of the cost to the government, if you go for immediate elections, which is what Imran Khan is calling for, he feels that he may gain?
He may be feeling that he may gain, but
what does the PMLN think?
But we have our own program. Without solving the problems of the people during the rest of period, I mean till August 23, I think we should not go for elections. Almost 50 billion rupees are required to hold elections, number one. Secondly, the Chief Election Commissioner has categorically, before the Supreme Court, has categorically said that Election Commission is not in a position to hold elections before October
Right.
this year. So if that is the position which is on record, we feel that we will soon be in a position to solve people's problem, and we will also through our good governance resolve other problems, and during these 15-16 months inshallah we will be running a stable government, combating terrorism, winning again our friends, and at international level we will also be inshallah winning the support, and it will collectively be in the betterment of the state of Pakistan.
Let me come back to you. Ji Abdullah, can you hear me now? Ji Abdullah, can you hear the audio? Is your audio okay now?
Yes, I can hear. Hello?
Ji Abdullah, overall, as far as the situation stands today, what I was saying was, isn't it better for the PTI to let the situation stabilize economically as far as Pakistan is concerned, and then move towards elections? Because whichever government comes in, even after the elections, is going to be dealing with the same economic problems at this time, and things are not, for any political party to at this time say that things are great or easy or even manageable is perhaps not correct. There's a problem. Ji Niasab, I the same question to you. At this time, of course, as far as the political unrest is concerned, we are seeing a lot of political unrest, in the sense that, of course, there is very much a government in place that wants to move ahead and take measures and do things and accomplish. And of course, as far as Shehbaz Sharif Sahab is concerned, he has a reputation, whether one is from any political party, for doing things, and he's a doer. He's accomplished what he's accomplished as CM in his terms for Punjab, all of those things. But at this time, the kind of exchange we are seeing politically, the kind of political rallies, jalsas, in any case, it seems to be electioneering, no?
Yeah, I mean, there are pros and cons of early elections. The positive aspect of a new election would be that there'd be a new government with a fresh mandate, hopefully with a stronger mandate than what PMLN has right now, with just a 2-vote majority in National Assembly, and then Punjab is even a bigger mess. So that's the obvious advantage. But then there are also disadvantages. The big one being that if you hold elections now, that means that for 4 months there won't be a regular government in place, and with the economic situation so precarious, it's hard to see how the economic situation could be improved by an interim government. It's quite possible that the IMF may refuse to negotiate with an interim government. They have a very restricted mandate. They can't take very huge decisions, and there have been criticisms in the past of interim governments striking deals with the IMF. And then the other issue is that there is the situation that the Election Commission of Pakistan has indicated that it's not possible to hold free and fair elections immediately. So if I put everything together, my sense would be that it would be better to for this assembly to complete its term, and then the positive, the negative, of course, that would be that it won't have a strong mandate, but then that's where political consensus is important, and that's where the PTI should.
You're talking about political consensus when we have the last political party, as far as Imran Khan Sahab is concerned, coming out and making accusations, and accusations are getting more and more vehement. They're getting more and more scandalous. They're getting more and more what can one say, as far as even the last jalsa that happened, he talked about other conspiracies. There seems to be a build up of the kind of conspiracies that at this time, according to him, surround him. So things are getting more fiery. They're getting more the agitation seems to be building up there, no?
Yeah, that is the thing, the point I was getting to, that there is a need for, PTI also to show political maturity. It must remember that, the 2018 elections, which brought it to power, were extremely controversial. And it's not just me saying it. If you look at, the report of the foreign neutral umpire, a concept that Imran Khan introduced in cricket, the European Union election report, it's full of accusations of, pre-poll rigging. But despite that, I think PMLN gave the space to PTI to settle down and govern. And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, I don't see an iota of evidence of any kind of illegality involved in the way the PTI lost power in the vote of no confidence recently. So there is a huge, difference in terms of, the type of political maturity that, the older parties like PPP and PMLN show, and the kind of political immaturity and political expediency that PTI is showing at the moment. I think it should take its defeat in grace, show political maturity, show that it's a long-term player who can wait for its term. And this is the thing that it had done in 2014 too. It had not an iota of evidence that there has been a rigging in the 2013 elections. It was the fairest election if you go by the European Union reports, and it created a political crisis then, and it's creating a political crisis now. So I think at some level, it has to show some political maturity, that it's a party fit to be play the role of the national opposition and fit to be seen as a responsible stakeholder.
Right, let me come back to you. Ji, Abdullah, can you hear me now? Ji, Abdullah, Mumtaz Kaloon, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Right. Abdullah, overall, as far as the situation stands today, we talk about political maturity, we talk about the fact that, of course, as far as the no confidence motion is concerned, it's over, it happened. For a party of now, of PTI's, caliber, which has been in government once now, to agitate at this time when the economy is where it is, when the situation overall needs a stable environment, don't you think it's better for the country as a whole that we have less of these conspiracy theories, we have less of these vehement accusations, and we let the government stabilize, if it completes its tenure, which is another, less than a year, then elections will happen. And what is the PTI afraid of? That it will lose its, what can one say, will it not be able to do well in the elections if that time elapses? What is the PTI so fearful of?
Mark, that's an excellent question. I mean, one can ask Shehbaz Sharif the same question. What is Shehbaz Sharif and the PDM coalition so scared of? I mean, they've cried themselves hoarse for the last 3.5 years that they wanted elections. They've called all sorts of names to the government of Pakistan at that time, such as selected and all kind of vile accusations. But when Imran Khan said, basically, he ended the National Assembly, prorogued the National Assembly. The same coalition went running to the Supreme Court for relief. So now we talk of political maturity. Did Mr. Shehbaz Sharif and his cabal of leaders in the PDM think about the economy or the economic issues? I mean, we've had this government, this important government in Pakistan for the last 4 weeks. Before the vote of no confidence, they used to say there's no such cipher, and now we've seen a change in tune to that effect. As to whether it's a conspiracy theory, well, we've got the notes and the meetings of Ambassador Asad Majid Khan on point, and the Prime Minister at this time, in fact, the disputed Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif, and the floor of the National Assembly has even said that there is the cipher, and Pakistan was indeed threatened by an ally. So all of the things that the PTI government was alleging are absolutely true. Now, turning to the economic issues, I'm very surprised to see Mr. Siddiqul Farooq say that the problems that Pakistan has inherited, the economic woes, suddenly came into being in the last 3.5 years. I beg to correct that. They came into existence after 40 years of economic mismanagement, of 40 years of plunder and loot that have resulted in our state institutions being left in the form that they are. look at the PIA, look at the Pakistan steel mills, Pakistan Railways. All of these institutions have been economically mismanaged by the People's Party and
but
the
why
PMLN
not
regime.
wait, Abdullah? Why not wait for them to finish and then let the elections happen at the due date, and then let the people decide? Isn't it better for the PTI also that they will get a clear chance to get the kind of mandate that they would want to achieve what they want, or give that same chance to any other political party? Because you saw what happened as far as your allies were concerned, with the kind of numbers that your government walked into. It wouldn't be wrong to say that it had challenges from the word go. There was difficulty dealing with allies, which then stemmed into difficulty dealing with your own people, who then defected. So there is a lot of there were a lot of problems that the PTI was facing even when it was in government. For them to be grappling with the situation in Punjab the way it was, overall things were not easy.
MAHRUKH, the simplest answer to this is that the current PDM government, the imported government, has got no economic plan whatsoever. You've seen how the rupee has peaked at 193 rupees against the greenback. This is after just 4 weeks. Imagine what another 365 days will do to this poor country of ours. So another thing I want to say is that Pakistan follows the Westminster style of democracy. In the House of Commons, when a new government comes into power, they have a flash election so that the new government can decide the economic policies for the people of Pakistan. The problem we have today is we've got this loose cabal of different politicians who are going to sit together to make economic decisions that will only have an impact for 1 year. I mean, if PTI is to be elected in a year's time, then PTI will have to inherit all of the economic promises that this 1 year government makes. So it only makes perfect sense for this government, this imported regime, to quickly call for elections, get a fresh mandate from the people of Pakistan. If they are so popular,
inherited your promises and your problems, which is what they're saying. Let me come back to you. Ji, let me come back to you. Ji, Sadiqul Farooq Sahab, you heard
yes, my brother, PTI representative, says 40 years of loot and plunder.
Ji.
So we are not responsible for the 21 years of dictatorship. This includes 21 years dictatorship.
Right.
So I think when he levels blames and allegations, he should at least be realistic,
Right. Okay.
being an educated person,
Right.
and he should be objective. Similarly, when Imran Khan says and levels allegations, especially about no confidence. Now he says that since October 21, I knew that no confidence is coming, and that's why I was not agreeing to change a special head of a spy agency. So it means that he was using a spy agency for his own ulterior motives. He has confessed, in other words. Now he is quickly shifting his stance,
Right.
taking U-turns, and now he has come with another novel idea of threat to his life.
Right.
I will suggest the government to take him into safety custody, because, God forbid, if his allegation or if the threat to his life, what he is claiming is true, then it will be a great damage. But if it is not, because as soon as he became the largest party in the National Assembly on 25th of July 2018, there was a news that Imran Khan is facing threat to his life. Then another news that his spouse has told him that you are facing life threat. So now, if you consider his allegations and his claims, all things prove to be false, keeping in view the facts. So therefore, we should not give any weight to his allegations. We should stick to our policies and try to resolve our problems. We only feel the pressure of economy, not Imran Khan's public meetings, etc. We know what is being done. We know now they have started providing their own videos to the media, because now they are not allowing the media cameras. Now they are making their own films, their own videos, and they are providing to. So I know, because in '97, Mansoor Siddiqui was the cameraman of PTI. And when I watched the main bulletin, Imran Khan addressing public meeting in Peshawar, I recognized that this was the public meeting, or the camp of Afghan Mahajirin. Then I contacted PTV GM. He said that this video has been provided by PTI itself.
Okay.
And when I said, please send your own cameraman, then there was, the fact came to us. So similarly, what I am going to say is that we are not threatened by the public meetings of Imran Khan.
Overall, okay, even if you're not threatened by what Imran Khan is saying, or public meetings, or all of those things, overall, in terms of walking the line between making popular decisions and those decisions that you have to take because of the situation that you have landed in, is going to be a difficult task. And, you know, to ensuring that you have the people's support when you yourself have said that they face the kind of poverty, the kind of inflation that they face at this time. There's no magic wand.
People can have one meal during 24 hours. But if they are deprived of that meal too, will they survive?
No.
So we have to take the interest of, as I have already said, poor people, lower middle class and middle class. They are not in a position to be put more burden.
But where will the money come from?
Money?
The IMF will agree, you think?
It is, yes, it is a challenge for the government to manage resources.
And is it not a challenge to also take the allies on board with every decision? That is also going to be difficult.
Since allies are also political people and they know the problems confronting the state of Pakistan, therefore I think
That
they
they
will agree, and we will be on board, and we will take all decisions, and we are taking all decisions with consensus.
And as far as the rumors of early elections, you're saying that those are just rumors and they are...
I,
there's
in
no
my
credence
humble
to that.
capacity, totally reject
Right.
the rumors of early elections. We should complete the remaining term of 15 months. Yes.
To get the country back on track.
Yes,
That is,
yes.
Ji, Niasab, in your opinion, how do you look at what's being said at this time in terms of the increase in fuel prices, in terms of in terms of the rebates that were given by the last government, as far as petrol was concerned, all of those things which now the government has had to deal with. Do you think that there's any credence to what is being said, in, as far as early elections are concerned? Of course, there's no doubt that there is a tight rope here for the government to walk, and the allies, they're obviously going to have to be taken on board, and joint decisions have to be made, and that in itself is going to be a challenge. When you yourself mentioned proved such a big challenge for PTI also.
Yeah, I think that needs to come from the government, a very clear political plan. As I said, the political and economic are related. So if they've taken this decision, it should come from, the horse's mouth. The Prime Minister should make a national speech, lay out his vision, this is my plan. I'm going to hold elections next year. And in the meantime, this is how we are going to manage the economy. If they feel they have the space to, not increase fuel prices, then come up with credible figures which show that even without increasing the prices, they can still manage the economy, they can still get IMF on board. Because what markets and what people hate is uncertainty. And a clear plan showing how they will manage the economy will put a lot of things to rest. I mean, you're right, PMLN is right that, increasing fuel prices will put a lot of burden on people. But there are ways of going around it, which is to give, targeted subsidies to the poorest people who will be most affected. And, there's a very good system that you have now through the BISP, where, the most vulnerable people have already been identified. So it's a matter of, quickly sending the money to them, as PTI did during COVID-19, and that was quite helpful to the people at the peak of COVID-19. So similarly, they can give targeted subsidies to the poor instead of, giving it to everybody. The rich don't need it. The upper middle class also doesn't need it. But in the end of it, a clear political and economic plan is the crying need at the moment. Otherwise, the markets will remain in turmoil, the political situation will remain in turmoil, and that will make, the task of, delivering something even by next year that much more difficult.
Right, let me go to Abdullah. Ji, Abdullah, what is the best case scenario in your opinion at this time, even if elections are called? And of course, you've seen the statement come from Election Commission that they're unable to hold elections till October. What does the PTI expect? Do you have a plan? Because, a lot of criticism that the PTI came into when they walked into the government last time was that they didn't have a plan. And as a result, there were a lot of mess ups, there was a lot of confusion. That led to a worsening of the economic crisis 3 years down the road.
MAHRUKH, firstly, I want to say that the Election Commission of Pakistan has simply got only one role in this country, which is to hold elections. If this institution is to say that it cannot hold elections at when a vote of no confidence happens, then one has to question the legitimacy and the purpose of this institution. We had the Chief Election Commissioner
tell the point is you can't hold elections without the Election Commission, right?
We heard the Chief Election Commissioner tell the Chief Justice of Pakistan that he could hold elections over a period of 3 months. Then suddenly he went back on that and he said he needs time till September. I mean, what kind of institution is this that cannot even be prepared to hold elections at any time? And in the Westminster style of government that we have in Pakistan, elections can happen at any time. But the Prime Minister has a prerogative to call for elections at any time. And then for an institution like the Election Commission to say, oh, sorry, we can't do it for another year is just simply absurd. So now coming back to your question about an economic plan.
Stepped into his shoes as Prime Minister. He wants to get things under control before he can call for the elections. And, the kind of pressurizing tactics that we are seeing, that one has to call it that when you have, jalsas and you have conspiracies and you have the kind of pressure that the opposition is trying to mount for the elections is, I don't think there are two opinions on the fact, going to be really bad for the economy.
MAHRUKH, if you talk about pressure, I can tell you about pressure. I was there in Sialkot yesterday when this fascist government's machinery tried to block the roads leading to the Jalsa. And then I saw firsthand how one of my relatives, Alias Mali Sahib, was arrested a day before. Tear gas was used by the police to disperse the crowds. I mean, such fascist tactics to prevent the right of assembly, the peaceful right of assembly, is it justified? It's not at all. This government will do everything in its hands to make sure it exists until the final day and the last hour. And this is contrary to what they were being crying about for the last 3.5 years. Please give us the right to call elections. And now, when you gave them the elections in a silver plate, they ran away. They bolted. The people of Pakistan cannot be fooled. They can see a spade for a spade. And as for an economic plan, of course, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has an economic plan. Our economic plan was there to be implemented over a 5-year period. But because of the unconstitutional way that the PTI government was sent home in 3.5 years, obviously we could not deliver the full 1.5 year lap that we had. and to
Abdullah,
expect.
the 3.5 years, you're saying that the situation would have turned around had it not.
Of course
been
it would
for
have.
the,
Of
for
course,
the
I mean,
votes.
you forget, MAHRUKH, that COVID-19 happened during this exact same time, which affected Pakistan's economy as well as the global economy for over 1.5 years, even 2 years. And then we had foreign economists like Lawrence Summers praising the Pakistani government, Prime Minister Imran Khan's government, way that he tackled the COVID-19 crisis. So we have to discount all of these things. And despite that, we were still holding a strong position. Compare this to the last 4 weeks, where the dollar has peaked to 193 rupees. The stock market has lost 604 billion rupees off the market because of the uncertainty that is prevailing in the current market.
Unfortunately, I'm running out of time. I have to go to Siddiqul Farooq Sahab. I'll come. Ji Siddiqul Farooq Sahab.
Our neighbor India was also facing COVID-19 and
Much
10
worse
times
than us, yes.
serious than Pakistan. But their
Siddiqul
GDP,
Farooq Sahab, we can't really compare our
just
economy
1 minute,
with India.
but their GDP was 8.5 last year. Now, when Imran Khan, in his capacity as Prime Minister, knew in October 21 that no confidence motion against him has to be tabled soon. So before giving notice was given on 8th of March 22. Why didn't he dissolve the assembly to hold elections? He should have dissolved. But he didn't. Now he is demanding from us to dissolve and hold elections.
Fair enough.
Why?
Ji Abdullah, one last question to you. Why didn't the former Prime Minister Imran Khan dissolve the assemblies when he had the chance, so that there would have been less uncertainty at the time and the elections would have gone forth?
The Prime Minister basically wanted to have the cipher investigated. He put the cipher in front of the National Assembly Select Committee, and Shahbaz Sharif and the cabal of PDM leaders refused to even accept its existence. And now we've seen a volte-face where the same leaders have gotten up one by one to acknowledge its existence. Basically, there was a serious crisis in Pakistan where a foreign government has conspired to remove the legitimate government of Pakistan. Shouldn't it even merited an investigation? I mean, we've seen in America where there's Russian interference that they actually impaneled Robert Mueller to head that investigation. In this country, we just brush it under the carpet. I mean, we're not foreign
Is this
to having
justification that
countries.
6 weeks back you have not dissolved the assembly to hold elections, and after 6 weeks you are demanding us to dissolve assembly?
You've had your time. You've had your time. You've had your time.
Right.
Please don't interrupt me when I'm talking.
Time. Thank you so much for being with us, Siddiqul Farooq Sahab. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Niaz Murtaza, thank you for being with us today. Abdullah Mumtaz Kaloon, thank you for joining us. As far as the issues of economy are concerned, of course, the government is cognizant of the urgency in making the decisions and, of course, the political ramifications of those decisions, the political cost of those decisions, and taking the allies on board. All of those things seem to be right at the top of the agenda. At this time, sanity, one hopes, will prevail in across the board political parties, the opposition particularly, when they make demands for elections, considering the status of the economy, which needs the kind of stability that we are not unfortunately seeing because of the kind of rallying, the kind of accusations coming forward from the opposition. One hopes that there can be a saner approach to politics, a more pragmatic approach to politics, where it can be understood that the economy needs to take precedence over all kinds of electioneering. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.